everybody. It's Dr. Karma Bryant. How are you guys doing? Oh my gosh, the sun is shining into the camera. Let me see if I can get it better for you guys. Let's see if this works. This works. I think this is a little better, right? Well, thank you guys for joining my channel. This is Dr. Karma Bryant, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. Thank you for joining me. So you guys know I've been doing a series on the narcissist weapons. So I want to continue. And today I was going to talk about the most devious, hateful, and hurtful weapon. And that's the children. So I was having a conversation with my mentor, Apostle Helen Sadler, and of course my good friend Bridget Griffin, who is an advocate with the YWCA. And all of us said the exact same thing, especially Miss Bridget Griffin, because she works a lot of times back and forth in the court systems. And usually she works with women. She works with a lot of women. So a lot of times women, but men, you guys know this for a fact, because women do it to you all the time, and we've seen it all the time. But the very first thing that they go after is the kids. So as soon as one person decides that they're going to leave the relationship because for the women that it's abusive, for the men, I can't take this anymore, for whatever reason, you'll never see your kids again. Most of you men with us, you'll never see your kids again. And I'll fight in the court. And a lot of times they get into court, they lie about it. Lie that you're abusive. Sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. Lie that you're abusive, lie that you're doing something to the kids, CPS reports, all sorts of things, smear campaigns, CPS reports, back and forth, everything or witnesses or anything to make you look like that horrible parent, that smear campaign, and women likewise, if the man has money, and a lot of you may not have, the finances to take you through court, they'll use the children as leverage to keep you from leaving. And they'll tell you, I have money, I'll make sure I take the kids, and the kids will never see you again. You'll never see these kids again. Or what we know is the term parental alienation. One parent has the child, and then parental alienation. Also know that parental alienation is not a construct that you'll read about in psychology. When I say in psychology, meaning that it is not in the DSM, you won't read it in the DSM, but what it is parental psychological abuse of the child. And one of the biggest thing that they use is division. They manipulate the children in believing that one parent is bad, or they project themselves onto the child, not onto the child, but they project themselves and their nasty behavior and their bad attitude and their abusive ways onto that other parent, and making the child, or one of the biggest things is they mirror the child. So, just like they love bomb you, they love bomb the children. They pull the children in and when it comes to money, toys, material things, because that's what kids like. Money, toys, material things, I get you this, everything that they want, they just feed it to them. That's the best way to pull a child in. And then what they'll do is they'll convince them, they'll psychologically manipulate them into believing that the other parent is this horrible parent that broke up the family, this horrible parent that cheats. They put them as a role reversal. They put the children in a position of an adult, and they talk to these children that are not, mentally mature enough or psychologically mature enough to handle an adult conversation. And they'll have adult conversations with these children concerning the other parent. Your mother or your father is a cheater. They're always lying. They're doing this. They're doing everything that's possibly negative. They'll make sure that they talk about with the other parent. It was your mom's fault or your father's fault that the family broke up, and that's why we're not together. And your mom or your dad hates me, and that's why they treat, and they're trying to take you away from me, and they don't want you, so they get the children to side with them. And eventually, the more they're around these kids, the more the child no longer wants to be around that other parent. They have been groomed. They have been manipulated. They have been, trained to think that the other parent is this horrible, horrible, horrible parent. And so now there's this big divide between the two, what we know as parental alienation. And the biggest thing is that you have in the court system, you may have GALs assigned, and then they refer families to reunification counselors. The reunification counselor's responsibility is to reunify the alienated parent, or to reunify that family so they can have a healthy relationship, a healthy parenting. The problem is, and which I hate the most, the problem is that every reunification counselor is not trained, not all of them, but most of them are not trained to understand narcissist abuse. They're not trained to understand the dynamic. Some of them are very aware of it, and they take notes. A lot of them don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with high conflict relationships, and they stay focused on, I'm going to help you to communicate. When they don't understand that they're dealing with a psychologically disordered individual that purposely manipulates the court system, manipulates therapists, manipulates the lawyers, and you can see GALs turning against the parent, and the parent is being re-victimized in the court system, or the parent is being re-victimized within the counseling session. A lot of, I think, and this is just me, and I know a lot of other people have said it, but I believe that in the curriculum for a GAL, within the curriculums of lawyers, within the curriculums of reunification counselors, when you're dealing with family and children, one of the most important things is that they get courses in domestic violence, psychological abuse, and what the term, the parental alienation, but it's the psychological, the psychological abuse that, that the parent is doing to the kids, basically, and that divide, I really believe is very important to also teach about these disordered individuals, whether it's borderline personality disorder, because they do the same thing, whether it's narcissistic personality disorder, psychopaths and sociopaths. And they need to learn, just like on these videos of teaching, they need to learn the behaviors and the things that they do. In the court system, you have advocates. It's like my friend Bridget Griffin watches it all the time. And the very first thing she said, like both me and Apostle Helen Sadler said, is that the very first thing they go after is the children. This is the very thing you see in the courtroom. Yeah, they try to take the kids because they know that's a precious commodity. That's something that is close to your heart. That right there is the knife that drives it. That right there will buckle you to your knees, and you'll do anything that the abuser wants you to do if you just let me have my children. Some people decide to stay in the relationship because if I stay in the relationship, at least I'll be able to see my children. If I leave the relationship, they'll do whatever they can to take my children from me, to turn my children from me. They watch their children grow up, and you may have been the stay-at-home parent. And a lot of times it's the women that are stay-at-home parents, sometimes the fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, the stay-at-home parents, and you have taken the time to help raise these children. These babies loved you, and you were the best thing since sliced bread, and they used to paint you pictures. Then all of a sudden, it's totally opposite. You're the worst thing that has ever happened. I hate you, and I don't want to be around you, and you're the reason why the family hasn't broke. But those are not even the words of the children. And I hate it when people are not trained enough to pick up on that. Where do you get that from? That's not even your language. You're not even at the age to be able to express that the way, and some of the younger kids are repeating what is being said in the house. Now, there are some narcissists, and there's some that are not narcissists, but some narcissists that are smart enough, and they're never smart, they're manipulative enough to know that I won't directly say it to the child. What I'll say to the child is, you have to respect your parent. You need to go call. You need to do this. But in the background, when they're talking to a new supply, when they're talking to friends, whatever, they always have something negative to say about the other parent. Now, you have the child in the middle that loves both of the parents. But then a lot of times when you're dealing with a narcissist who is abusive, verbally abusive, psychologically abusive, and scary. A lot of times the parent is scary. And what ends up happening is that they are made to feel afraid that you'll take the affection away, you'll take the attention away, and they'll do it on purpose the same way they did you, ghost you, silent treatment you. A child that young can't handle that. Ghost you, silent treatment, discard you. A child that young desires their parent. And so all they know is if I do what the parent tells me to do, I'll get the love and affection. And a child that young will do anything for the love and affection of the parent. And so that narcissist will go after that child, number one, because that's another way to drive the stake in your heart, to drive that knife in your heart and gut you. That's basically what they're doing. So I think it's imperative. Those of you that are going to the coaching field, those of you that are going into the psychological field, counseling, some of you are going for your law degrees. These are important things that you need to learn to understand these behaviors, because you're going to see it come through family court. Now, you see it in criminal court and all that as well, but in the family court system, you'll see this a lot. Those of you that are deciding to be reunification counselor, this is the type of education that you need. This what needs to be added to the curriculums inside of college, because things are changing. A lot of things are changing. And even though most people, I had a young lady, and I'm going to end the video like this, I had a young lady email me, and she wanted me to address this in a separate video. I'm just going to, I emailed her back, but I'm going to address this in the video. And what she said was that she was going to a counselor, and she was expressing her concerns and her paranoia, her fear in reference to the narcissist. And she was told basically to get over it. You're too paranoid. You're blowing it all out of proportion. You have to remember, when we go to school for psychology, everybody branches off and does what they want to do. You have people that are child specialists. You have people that only work with geriatric patients, the older generations. Some just work with teens, adolescents. Some deal with only adults. Some decide to specialize just in testing and evaluation. Some decide to do the severe mental health, which you'll find in like the state hospitals, the severely mentally disabled that are just med management and make them as comfortable as possible to have some kind of quality of life. Some of them are within like inpatient clinics or the ER. So each person branches off and does what they do and what they're interested in. Within school, they give you, they do talk about domestic violence, but not in detail. And so it is good, and I think is ethical that every therapist, I don't care what branch or what, who you decide, your population, the LGBT community, it doesn't matter. Whoever you decide to be with, I think is very imperative that there is a curriculum, a separate curriculum that delves into domestic violence, especially by those that are disordered, their behaviors, the abnormal psychology that goes along with it. Not just the abnormal psychology, but the behavior of these people and the things that they do and how they do what they do, to give a better understanding, because every therapist does not have an understanding of what a disordered person does and the details behind how they do what they do. And so most people are not trained in domestic violence. Most people are not trained, when I say trained, above and beyond your college curriculum, meaning that for myself, I went to the YWCA and I got the certification to go in to help those that are victims or survivors of domestic violence, to find out the different resources that are available. I talk to my friend all the time to find out what resources are available. I went to the sexual assault center of Pierce County to get a certification, a 40-hour certification, to get trained about sexual assault and what happens as an advocate, when you walk them through the process. Or when they've been traumatized, people have been traumatized when they've seen people killed and murdered and sexual assault, and the process they take them to the hospital and sit within the hospital. In the military, I was trained 40 hours of victim advocate, what we do when you go deploy and how you walk them through the hospital to get the sexual assault kit that applies and how you support them through the court system. So there's specialized training, and every therapist doesn't have specialized training that specializes. And then you have to continue that education. And when you are seeing, I'm a trauma professional, so I study this kind of stuff and I do it all the time in order to make sure that I stay abreast on what is going on. Every therapist is not like that. So every therapist doesn't know what they're talking about when it comes, stop being paranoid. And you're being re-victimized within the therapy session. Now most victims are re-victimized in court, re-victimized by the lawyers, re-victimized by the counselors. So there's re-victimization going on. And that's very important that it needs to be trained. Somebody needs to make sure that victimology is a part of, the curriculum for a therapist. This needs to be something that it's mandatory that lawyers, just like for therapists, every 2 years, we have to make sure we get an ethics training. We also get suicide training. There's ethics training, suicide training, and there's something else. We had to have HIV training, for that population. And so I think it's imperative that even for continuing education for lawyers, judges, reunification counselors in general, and those that are working with this population, YWCA workers, and those that are working with this volunteers, judges, all that, they need to have some type of continuing education to keep them abreast on what is going on and the behaviors of these individuals. That's the only way that we can come together and stop this from happening. We have domestic violence. We're trying to stop domestic violence, but we also need to know the details on what they're doing and how they're doing it. And the biggest weapon is your kids. They use the kids against you to hurt you because they know that right there will stop you in your tracks. That right there will cause you to either fight, flight, freeze, blow up something, kill somebody, and hopefully none of you would do it. But when it comes to the children, they know that right there is what'll get your heart. That'll tear your heart up. And they want to inflict the maximum amount of pain they can possibly inflict on you. So hopefully this has helped you. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Dr. Carmen Bryant. Please subscribe at Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. Make sure you check out my spiritual parent. It is Helen Sadler, Destiny Helper. Make sure you share her videos so we can get her numbers up. If you watch us, give us 6 months with your life. I guarantee your mind will start changing. I am in the process of moving. And so once I get settled in, for some of you guys that maybe cannot afford coaching at this particular time, I'm going to open up a platform where we're going to do group coaching, educational coaching. And so it's going to be an educational group coaching, but I'm only going to do increments of 10. And so some of you, if you want to do, we can do like 6 weeks. And within those 6 weeks, you know, you can pay it full, or you just come, you know, is first come first serve basis, and I'll try to do that at different times during the day. On a Friday, you guys let me know you want a Friday. I can't do all Saturdays. I may have to do it every 2 weeks, you know, until I can see. And right now I'm gonna focus. I know, fellas, kings, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I'm going to see how many kings we got that are interested, but I'm going to try to get the women in first. Let me see how, because I have the majority of the people on here are women. And so when I get the men in, I can help the men, but I'm going to get the women in first, and I'm going to do it in increments of 10. And we may do like a 6 weeks or 4 weeks, and we'll do an educational group setting coaching groups. It's going to be an educational group setting coaching, where I'm able to coach you guys in a group setting and educate you guys to help you process. And we'll start from the basics, 101, narcissist abuse. What is it? How does it affecting you? You know, and I'm going to put those together. Just give me a moment to move, because I got a lot of things that I'm planning on doing. I told you guys, you know, conferences and all, I'm still going to do all that. I just got to get myself settled back in to get my schedule back together. So I appreciate it. I do have a book. It's called Unmasking, The Illusion of Perfection. Find it on Barnes & Noble, on Amazon. You can get an ebook. You can get Kindle. Those out of the country, just contact Westbow Brooks is a street down here, but Westbow Books. There you go, Westbow Books. It's underneath it's right up underneath the video. Westbow Books. Westbow, yeah, one of those. It's right up underneath the video. So contact them and they will send overseas. And so make sure you guys check in. So if you need coaching, please contact me. I do have some discounted rates at this time. The time is running low because I'm getting ready to start a whole nother program on my other platform, the new website. And I'm still working on the classes. Don't worry about that. But you guys get it while you can. Discounted rates. You know, I've had it going on since I think November. We started in November. And so contact me. I will provide you with my coaching fees. If you're inside the state of Washington, I do counseling. Outside, I do coaching. Those of you that are looking for counselors, there's a vetted services that I use, which is betterhelp.com/Dr. Carmen. And if you click on that, you get a 10% discount. If you're having financial issues, let them know, and they will assist you with some grants. But it is a vetted services, and this is what I recommend. I've heard some very good reviews. People have had some really good experiences with them, and they're licensed counselors within your state that will do online counseling with you. So I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you so much, and you guys go and be great.